Welcome everybody to the Healthy Indoors live show. I'm your host, Bob Krell. I'm the founder and publisher of Healthy Indoors magazine. It's great to have you here. This is our first of a new format for the show. We're keeping our same Thursdays at 1 to 2 p.m. Eastern time slot. But starting today, this is the first incarnation of our live virtual studio audience. So we actually have people sitting in the gallery here that are part of the Zoom meeting. We're live streaming up on our Vimeo and Facebook pages. So this will be interesting. Our live studio audience will be able to actively ask questions, come on camera, speak with our guests, and it should be an interesting time. One of the I think important things I'd like to talk about here is just what the format and how we're doing the show. So Joe Medosch is returning again as our co-host. And Joe, introduce yourself and tell us about Joe Medosch.
Wow, I can take up the rest of the show by doing that kind of introduction. So yes, I'm happy to be back, and I'm really excited about our new format and the ability to interact with the viewers. And clearly today, we probably hoping to have at least 20 to 40, but I think in the future, we're going to see a lot of IAQ professionals tuning in to see our topics and hear about not just what we have to say, but what other people that are tuning in want to hear and what their questions are. I think that's going to be an exciting dialogue that we've really been missing in our industry. A lot of other industries are doing this. Now we've stepped up to be like, let's provide a venue for everybody with IAQ to chime in and hear what other people are saying.
We've always been the trendsetters, though. And welcoming to our crew here, also Susan Valenti. She's the editor of Healthy Indoors magazine, coming to us from Andover, Mass. And Joe, I always forget the name of your city in Colorado that you're in.
Loveland. In fact, right now, everybody sends their mail to Loveland and it gets stamped, and then they send it back on to their real Loveland.
Loveland.
Loveland. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. I get it. So Susan, anyway, is here as our moderator, and also, second instigator on the show to spur some questions. She has a keen insight into posing those penetrating questions that people, first of all, fail to ask and should be asking. So with that, Susan will be moderating our online live studio virtual audience. So if you're in the audience and you want to ask a question, you can type in the chat. There's a chat box that's available here in the Zoom meeting. You also can hit the raise your hand button, and the raise hand button functions off of the reactions button. So you hit that, raise your hand, and when we're in a Q&A session, when we're pausing to allow audience questions of our guests, Susan will be able to unmute you or ask you to unmute and bring you in and let you ask your question. So yeah, wow. Okay.
Let's dig in.
Yeah, I guess it's time to do that, right? So let's without any further ado, let's introduce our guests on the show. Kevin, we've got actually, first let me put up a graphic here for what the show's the feature on the show today. The show is actually a party, so to speak. We're calling it a party anyway. It is a product release party for TSI's new Q-Trak XP indoor air quality monitor. And this is a really cool device. I haven't had a chance to physically touch it, but I've been speaking with our guests today and had a chance to at least look at some of the promotional materials and videos on it. What'll be interesting with this is they just launched the product this week, so it's new and dear, and so we're gonna be talking about it, and we'll allow everyone to come in and ask questions about it. So with us today via telephone today is Kevin Chase. He's the global project manager for indoor air quality and exposure monitoring products from TSI. Kevin Chase, welcome, Kevin. And I think he's unmuted. And then also Jim Schumacher, who we actually have his video. He's here, and I'm going to bring Jim's video up full screen so we can actually see him. Jim is the product marketing specialist for TSI's ventilation and IAQ instrumentation. Hi there.
Hey guys, appreciate it. Bob, Joe, Susan, appreciate the time to get out here and to get on this call and chat with everybody online. And we're really excited about a new product that, unfortunately or unfortunately, is coming around at a time when a lot of us are spending a lot of time indoors. So, with all the time indoors, there's a heightened awareness of from all people in all walks of life. So I think we have something that a lot of the professional IEQ consultants, professional engineers, or industrial hygienists would be something that they're definitely going to be interested in.
So with that, I'd like to actually jump to a video. We've got just a short 1-minute video we'd like to show you guys that actually talks about this product, so you can be familiar with it and understand what we're talking about here. So here we go. Let's let it roll.
To effectively monitor indoor air quality in today's high-performance building environments, you must be able to measure a wide range of parameters. It's important to assess potential sources of air contaminants and determine the proper amount of ventilation to provide your building's occupants. Measuring your indoor air quality has never been easier with the Q-Trak XP Indoor Air Quality Monitor. This monitor is a field-expandable instrument that simultaneously logs standard IAQ parameters, along with the mass concentration measurements and 6 different types of gases. This flexible, lightweight instrument can be configured, customized, and expanded to meet the increasing demands indoor air quality professionals face. The Q-Trak XP Indoor Air Quality Monitor was designed with flexibility in mind. Pick and choose the sensors you need and simply snap them into place. You can also swap out the entire sensor module for another preset module. Each sensor can be quickly replaced and calibrated in the field, giving you on-the-spot control over survey parameters. The removable sensor module reduces downtime for service, so you can keep your Q-Trak monitor running without interruption. The large touchscreen display makes it easy to scroll, select, swipe, and zoom, making streamlined workflows and field calibration a breeze. Wi-Fi connectivity allows you to download data remotely. The Q-Trak XP Indoor Air Quality Monitor expands your IAQ measurement capabilities, one sensor at a time. To learn more, visit tsi.com/Q-TRAK-XP.
So this is a very neat product. Many of you, I know, from the industry, have probably experienced using a Q-Trak over the years, right? It's I know as an IQ practitioner for years, we've used various incarnations of the Q-Traks over the years. It's kind of like an industry standard. It's been out there for for handheld monitoring. So I guess first off, and I'm going to let Kevin and/or Jim jump in, as you please to answer these questions. But my first question for you is, the TSI Q-Trak's kind of an iconic instrument, right? We're all seen them for years. Professionals in the industry have been using them for years. So what was the objective at TSI for designing this new version of the Q-Trak? What drove this?
Yeah, hi, this is Kevin. I'm back. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, great. Hi, thanks. I've been having some connectivity issues. Really, where we went with this product is we really listened to what the market was saying and what our customers were asking for as we visited them across the country. And everybody, as you said, the Q-Trak has earned a really strong reputation in the industry for being accurate and highly durable and flexible with its configuration. But yet the market was asking for even more, as they were looking for mass concentrations along with gases and then additional gases. So when we looked at this product and this market and then our product line, we thought, okay, let's take that legacy Q-Trak and bring it to the next level. And we really listened to how customers use instruments and what they do with the data once they gather it. And we looked at how to add that flexibility in. So with Q-Trak, we took a fresh start, bringing that legacy forward, combining mass and gas together. So particulate measurements can be taken along with your standard indoor air quality parameters such as CO and CO2 and temperature and relative humidity and those basic, I'll call them core measurements. And then really listen to what our customers were looking for with going beyond that and what kind of expansion they were looking at as they responded to their customers in the marketplace. And when we did that, we looked at how can we make this flexible and streamline with their processes and so on. And as we went through this project, we got continuous input from customers and users, and really wanted to take a product that would really carry us into the next generation, but yet bring that legacy of our Q-Trak forward. And I believe we've accomplished that. We're very excited with that. This product is flexible, low cost of ownership, and really kind of hits a great deal of the areas that not only the video talked about, but the behind the scenes data gathering that our customers are looking for.
So I mean, we saw, in the it was a quick 1-minute video snippet, but what are some of the, the key features, the changes, the innovations that you've added to the unit, from the previous version of your Q-Traks that you had out there? What makes this thing a real different animal?
Sure. Well, there's several things really, and to start with, it's the flexibility in the field. So in the past, you could order different probes and plug them in and have some flexibility, but we were limited to the configuration of the probes. Whereas with this product, we've added a wide variety of sensors that can be changed out very quickly in the field by the user. They can configure the product as they go and expand their capabilities as they need to. As well as having a much broader application of gases, for example, but then really building in the ability as part of our base unit to measure particulates. We've got 3 different mass concentration sizes and 6 different particle count sizes, so cut points. So it really is a tremendous amount of flexibility. The user can display up to 20 different indoor air quality parameters at one time, and then not only look at that data live, but then also see live graphing as well with the GUI interface. So that is part of it. The other part of it is low cost of ownership. So one of the things that we heard a lot was less downtime in the field. So we designed this product so with a swappable head, as you saw, the swappable module in the video. Well, the advantage to that is customers can either send in the module for maintenance or calibration, and then have a separate module that they can keep working in the field, keep serving customers while that's being done. So there's less downtime for service and maintenance. If a sensor needs to be replaced in the past, the probe needed to be sent in to have that sensor replaced. With this instrument, the users can do it in the field. They can order a sensor directly and just change that out when need be. And then, of course, user calibrations are always part of indoor air quality instruments, and we built that in with an easy-to-follow user interface to help support that. So there's we've taken everything that the legacy Q-Trak can do, and we've just taken it to the next level for ease of use, low cost of ownership, and streamlining the customer processes and applications. And by having an expandable platform, which is what XP stands for, it really opens up a wide range of capabilities for users to get into the platform and then really expand it as their needs expand and in only the areas they need to be expanded into. So if they're looking for a particular gas, they can expand into that quite affordably going forward and not have to buy a completely different instrument. And then, of course, on the back end of it, it takes all that data and puts it into one data set, right, for easier management and data analysis.
Yeah, I think you definitely stepped up your game. The module concept is something that people are kind of expecting in tools today, or to be able to service it and keep my tool and still use it. So I do want to clarify one of the things you had mentioned there. So for instance, for particulates, people want to monitor, 0.1, 0.25, 1.0. Can I do all those with one module, or do I need a separate one for each one of those? And are you giving me a different scale for each one of those?
Great question. You can do all of that with the single module. They are selectable, so you can select which one of those cut points, either particle count or mass concentration or both, that you would like to display. You can display them all if you want, although that's probably an outside use case. But you can choose to display those and look at the cut points that you're interested in, as well as any of the other parameters.
Yeah, I have several questions, so I'll try and interject those as we go through. So appreciate it.
Sure.
Go ahead, Jim.
Yeah, Bob, you mentioned your familiarity with the Q-Trak and other, IEQ products at TSI and probably others as well. But when you look at how indoor air quality has changed, when we talk about, Kevin mentioned some of the core or classic measurements, and they might have been fine 15, 20, 25 years ago. You have your temperatures and humidities for, doing maybe a thermal comfort or indoor environments. Then you pretty much had CO2, carbon dioxide, and carbon monoxide. Those would be your core measurements, and but the industry and the needs today have changed. I've gone to conferences, I've talked to a lot of customers who use a myriad of different TSI products for doing indoor air quality studies or monitoring or so on. So the needs of the IEQ investigator today has changed completely from what it was a decade or two ago. We've had the Q-Trak and our classic one. We brought on VOC probes. We're doing TVOC. That's got really big. That's about 10 years. But now other things are coming online. Formaldehyde has always been a hot topic. Think about all the construction material, everything that goes into a building construction, all the material, all the furniture. That new car smell in your car, well, that's just a soup of VOCs that are just off gassing into your cabin. But really, the needs of the IQ investigator have changed, and we're trying to meet that change by giving them something that they can configure themselves. If you want to measure particles, if there's something going on in the kitchen, you don't, maybe in a restaurant, and odors are starting to escape from the kitchen out to the dining area, you can track that to the source. And one of the keys is to be able to build and expand on your measurements. If there's a lot of VOCs or a lot of odors in the environment, think about how buildings are coming online. Again, our building here at TSI, we're at reduced capacity. You think about all the schools that have been at stagnant or reduced capacity, and one of the things that they're going to be doing is a lot of cleaning, a lot of disinfecting. So you may see more cleaning agents being used, ammonia, chlorine, and depending on an individual's sensitivity, they may react differently than others. So it's very important to be able to have the tools that an indoor air quality investigator needs to be able to go into that building. They're called in. There's some type of complaint. Do the indoor IQ investigation, interview those who are affected, what areas of the building, get a layout of the building itself. But this is a tool just to build upon the what am I looking for? On the abilities of the IEQ investigator. Instead of having a whole bunch of different instruments wheeled around in the cart, you have one device to do that. And another thing is, in any type of indoor air quality monitor, that's all it is a monitor. All it is a diagnostic tool. Generally, the source or the solution to any IEQ problem is your mechanical ventilation system. So to be able to use a device to, okay, CO2 levels are too high, you've got too many particulates, if you got a problem with indoor air quality, you basically have two solutions: either eliminate the source or control it. And with the Q-Trak XP, we're able to really dial in the monitoring so that the recommendations that the IEQ investigator puts forth is something that the owner can really count on and have confidence in moving forward to make any potential changes.
So I jump in as far as the video again. Watching the close up of the hand. Putting the new sensor modules in the device. It seems like it is pretty simple to do. And I noticed they had the little hood for doing gas calibration. I mean, is it really as simple as that looks? A lot of times, in actual practice, right, when you get in the field as a professional, is this an easy change to do in real time and a calibration fairly easy to do on these devices?
Absolutely. It's as, Bob, we'll set something up for you. Hey, you're always welcome. And, but yeah, it is literally that easy to plug and play sensors. You can put them in any slot. The IEQ module, you can have one as a backup, or, you send one back for service, for factory calibration, get all your calibration data sheets. No worries, you can always have a backup one. Or if you have, let's say you're doing multiple studies and there's a lot more going on in the space, you can have another module outfitted with a completely different set of sensors, depending on the environment. There's a lot of different gas sensors that we have available, and it's very important for the IQ investigator to know which ones to use at what, when. So we have sensors for nitric oxide, nitrogen dioxide. Those are generally pollutants, mainly coming in from a combustion, or more importantly, from polluted urban environments. So if you have a building that's in an area where there's a lot of traffic, a lot of outdoor pollution, there is a potential for that to get inside your building through whether opening doors or windows or the loading docks when the trucks come in and so on. But it's very important that, whatever sensors are being used, that they'll give them the data that they need for a particular environment.
So I'll do another follow-up question real
Yeah.
quick. So I want to find out, many times where these are handheld devices, we're walking around with them, but sometimes I just want to leave it in a room for a while, or even much longer. So what's my potential battery time? And I just want to confirm that I need both pieces. I need the the sensors and the handheld device to gather data, or can I leave one someplace? Is that I think that would just be a guesstimate question.
Yeah.
Can I just leave the gas sensor someplace and actually gather data?
The unit works together in combination, so you would need the handle, the display part of it, as well as the sensor module. But it does have about a 20-hour runtime. It does also run on AC power.
Right.
And there is also a security feature with it. So if you're doing a long-term study, say in a classroom or in a meeting room, and you want to do it over a series of times, and there is a way to program so that you can do it for an hour and then wait 10 minutes and do it for another hour for classroom changes or what have you, for an example. The screen, you can have it so the screen locks out so that it can't be tampered with during a study. So we built in some features like that for a variety of applications. That is user settable, selectable. So if you don't need that, if that's not a feature that's applicable, then you can certainly turn that off and it will stay in its mode. But it does have a power reserve or a low power mode, which will dim the display and extend the battery life as well. So we've built it for a wide range of applications, both short-term studies and a longer-term study as well. Really giving the user a lot of flexibility.
Your unit is Wi-Fi. Do you guys have an app, or are you thinking about having an app so I can see data remotely? So if I put this in a duct system, I could be down on the main floor and actually see what's happening with the device, or I have to grab it and upload it.
Sure. So yes, we do have Wi-Fi in the device. That is an option. It's primarily for remote downloading of data. So there isn't a live stream data at this stage of the software. It does come with a desktop version of Track Pro, what we call Track Pro Ultra, and that's an extension also of our classic Track Pro product. But it's a whole new platform that we're moving towards. So at this stage of the game, it's really for remote downloading of data sets, and then graphing, analyzing, and then taking that data and putting it into reports. It's great question. But so the Wi-Fi, because of that, the Wi-Fi is an option. You can also connect the instrument via a hardwire USB-C cable, which comes with the instrument to connect to get that data transfer as well.
So here's the $1 million question, or at least a question. What's the anticipated service on one of these things, as far as annual maintenance, life expectancy on sensors? And I know that they vary, right, based on the sensor module probably, but what are you looking at to actually keep one of these things up and running? And are there required send it back calibrations and those sort of things?
Sure. So with the module itself, it houses the temperature, humidity sensors as well as the PM sensor, and those are fixed in the module. And we recommend an annual calibration for the module itself, and that is to keep those up to speed. Now, that being said, the temperature sensor, the humidity sensor, as well as any of the gas sensors are calibratable by the user in the field.
Right.
If the user wants to send those in or needs to get a CalCert with them, then we certainly do service those, but they're designed to be calibrated by the user. Some of our users have said that they calibrate their instruments daily, some weekly, others dependent on the kind of work they're doing, if they need that validation for their customers or for their application for the record keeping. And what we built into the GUI interface is a very easy process of selecting a sensor to calibrate and then allowing for that to be done either via gas flow or with direct input of readings that if you're trying to match with, say, a master temperature reading that you have that is highly accurate that you depend on, then you can enter that as well and calibrate it directly to that. So we've looked at that from a calibration and maintenance from a variety of different angles. In terms of the life of the sensors, they really do, it varies by the sensor and by usage applications. Some can dry out. Obviously, VOC sensors can be, the lights can be rebuilt, and those kits are available through TSI or out in the open market. But if a sensor needs to be replaced, users can just order that directly and replace it in the field. So during the calibration process, it'll give you a warning if the sensor is starting to drift out of a specification, and it'll tell you that you can calibrate this, but if that calibration range is getting outside the spec, then that's a good indicator to order another sensor and have that replaced. But it will let you calibrate and move on with your work for the day. It just kind of gives you a heads up that it's reaching end of life, or if there's something else going on with that sensor.
So with that video, with a segment that actually showed the gas sensor hood to go over it and actually do the calibration, is that an accessory or that component for actually performing the calibration on your sensors? Because I'm assuming obviously you have to have a orifice that's actually going to be sized properly for your sensors.
Sensor,
go ahead, Jim.
Yeah, that that calibration cap that comes standard with the kits, because as you know, in doing IEQ investigations or using types of gas sensors, things drift over time. We have NDIR sensor for the CO2. We use photoionization detection for the TVOC, and electrochemical sensors for all the other gases. Like Kevin mentioned, life expectancy on sensors vary, and especially due to use or concentration. But one thing that's very important in any type of, what's the outcome when you're doing an indoor air quality investigation? Well, you're there on the behalf of the owner, and you're generating data, and you want to have confidence in the data that you're getting. Who knows? Things, years, when we had the hurricanes and mold issues, mold is gold, and so on. There could be a lot of litigation issues if you're don't have your products up to speed, recent calibration. So each one of those sensors has its own serial number, part number, and will come with its own individual calibration certificate right from the factory. And I know a lot of consultants that they'll do a bump test. Before they do a study, they'll test the unit out. Maybe a zero and a span. Make sure that that gas sensor is okay. It's reading. I have confidence in the measurements. If they need to do an adjustment, they can calibrate it. Then they can go ahead and do their study, put the monitor, let it chug away. You can set it up for long-term unattended studies. And, when you're done with that, test it again. At least that way you have a very good baseline on the performance of what your sensors are doing during the duration of that test. We've always prided ourselves on on providing solid calibration. And not only that, we also provide as found. So if you send in your old Q-Trak in, or any of our other TSI devices, we'll take it out of the box, put it in our test fixtures, test them out, do an as found data. How is it performing right now before we make any adjustments? So that'll give someone even more confidence. Some of our other products, like some of our VelociCalcs, when you're getting into critical space testing, doing pharmaceuticals, laboratories, clean rooms, things of that nature, it's very imperative that the data that you get is accurate and you can trust it. And that's where that as found data comes in. So you send your module back, your IEQ module, we'll test that PM sensor. We'll make sure the temp and humidities are reading within scope. You send in your sensors, we'll do the same thing. We'll test them, and if we need to, we'll replace them. But you'll always get the data back, because at the end of the day, that data goes into your reports that you're handing over to your client. And at the end of that, you want to get paid for your work, and you don't want anybody knocking on your door saying, "Hey, I'm Mr. Lawyer and I don't trust your what you're providing here. So, we need to talk." So, yeah, in a nutshell, it's very important to be able to have control over your maintenance, your sensor selection, and your calibration, whether you send it back to the factory or you do it yourself in the field.
Well, I'll follow up with that. And I do want to clarify that you said something a second ago, Kevin, and that was that the main module has built into it relative humidity, temperature, and the particles. Is that correct?
Correct, and barometric pressure as well. And if I can add one more thing to what Jim was saying, one of the things we've built into this instrument is for each sensor, and they're serialized, when you calibrate the sensor, it tracks when the last time the user calibrated that sensor, and this is individually by sensor. It also tracks when the factory originally calibrated the sensor. So the user can get a good idea of how old that sensor is, when was the last time it was calibrated by the user itself, and they can go in sensor by sensor and have that information readily available to them, and it tracks that, so it gives really more control in the hands of the user on managing really their inventory of sensors and their accuracy on whether or not something needs to be calibrated. If they don't, if they do a lot of calibration, they might not recall that they did this one on Tuesday and that one last Wednesday. But the instrument does track that for them.
So Kevin, I don't know how through your phone you're able to see my notes, because my notes were, can I adjust relative humidity and temperature directly? And does the device or system keep track of my calibration? So those are my last two questions, which you were able to answer before I could ask them. Well done.
I mean, Joe is somewhat omnipresent, though. He is an omnipresent character.
We do the best we can.
I have a follow-up for you guys. So one of the most common devices that people need in the new OSHA world that's out there is the ability to do OSHA compliant confined space testing, which requires a specific series of gas conditions. Do you guys have the ability to do that? And is there a probe that allows me to extend my device so I can actually throw it in or determine what's actually happening in the space before I go in it, even for any of those gases?
Yeah, good question. I think it's really important to note that we designed this instrument for indoor air quality. And although it has really a wide range of gas capabilities, up to 6 sensors at one time, it's really not intended for those confined space industrial gas applications. The intrinsic safety is another aspect of those environments and those applications, and this product was not intended for intrinsically safe environments. So really, if when you compare its capabilities, you go, okay, we can use it for some of these for gas type of applications, but that's really not what it was designed for and not what it's intended for. So it's not recommended for those applications, but for applications in indoor air quality and just looking at a wide range of applications, like as Jim said earlier, formaldehyde is becoming more and more of an issue with different materials. both in construction materials, but also things like carpeting and chairs and furniture, and also things like chlorine in schools with indoor swimming pools, and is that being migrating throughout a building and a facility into what levels, cleaning supplies and so on. With high efficiency buildings, that air exchange is becoming more and more important, as we've seen over the last 10 years or so. And to all of that, indoor air quality standards from LEED and other building standards are being more broadly accepted, not only in the United States but globally, as people are being and businesses, business owners, managers, all being much more focused on indoor air quality and sustaining that. And the various aspects of that they're looking into has helped to really put more focus on and expanding parameters of indoor air quality. And again, that's where we built this instrument, to expand with the customer need, so that those types of additional applications are readily available and affordable to move from, say, I bought the basic unit and move into some other areas.
I want to confirm, is there a probe that I can use to get me, inside of a duct or inside of an area for the device? Is there something that extends my reading ability?
Good question. Not at this time. This was intended to be launched as a self-contained unit.
No, I meant like an extension, some of the devices have an ability for me to reach in, or, a little gun looking thing that, right. That's what I wanted to clarify.
Yeah. Right. No, we don't have that. We do have that with some of our legacy Q-Trak products, that the wired probes to get inside of an air duct is part of the functionality of that. We did not build that functionality into this product at this time. So we're really taking a completely, a different approach to it. But that's a great point on really why the legacy Q-Traks will stay in our product line for that reason, for those applications.
So as far as the form factor with this device is a lot of your innovative design, right? Is that you're making it a small form factor, so you don't have a lot of things hanging off it. So it's more of a run and gun tool that people can move with. I'm assuming that's part of the reason for the shape.
Right, it's an analytics tool, and to do surveys and do studies, both short term and then long term, and then throughout a building to be able to move it. Particularly if you're doing percent of indoor air and you're trying to measure, say, CO2 to get that balance, and maybe Jim can talk to that in a little bit more detail. But you want to be able to move the product and do it in a manner that allows you to have freehand and be able to use the instrument and gather a variety of different measurements without having a great deal of ancillary equipment to deal with, either hanging on a belt or a tripod or another hand or something like that. So we really built it for that one-handed operation, one hand to navigate the display, to be able to do just a whole lot of different parameters for indoor air quality, or a variety of indoor air quality applications with a single device. That's not to say we don't have a clean vision of different applications and other opportunities to even make this product even more powerful. But those are all, future ideas and so on. And for right now, we wanted to get out in the marketplace with a really robust and new product platform that we think is very, very exciting and offers an awful lot of expandability to users in the marketplace.
Are there built-in alerts? So as I'm walking through an area, it could tell me if my whatever parameters I was after or reading had actually exceeded some criteria. Is that something that's in the device itself?
Great question. Yeah, there is. Actually, you can set both high and low parameters with any of the parameters that you're looking at. Certainly with with temperature, that might not be too helpful because it's fairly steady in most indoor applications. But for any of the gas sensors, for the PM, any of the parameters around PM, be it particle count or mass concentration, you can set both a high and a low limit, and it will give you an alert. It will log it and show you, and it'll be in a red alert section that we have in the interface, and then allow you to take a look at that and either keep that alert so you can watch it over time, It will also show up on the graphing when you put live graphs in. And then those high and low limits are also included in the data that gets exported as well.
Yeah, that's a great feature.
So I'm going to just kind of segue this into just more of an overall talk of, you gentlemen both have spent a lot of time in the industry. You've been with TSI for a collective number of years, and TSI doesn't just do indoor air quality instrumentation, right? You're known for doing a lot of HVAC related type diagnostic equipment, correct? So there's this is your latest in your line of devices, but for the IAQ practitioners, there's going to be other tools in your line, right, that would come into play.
Yeah.
Sure. And that's where that's where the crossover is.
Yeah.
So I'm going to let Jim kind of take that, because Jim spends a lot of his time on the HVAC side of that indoor air quality equation.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. We have, a lot of our products, our ventilation products, are used by test and balance professionals, the guys that go out there and calibrate that system to the design specs, or, follow the building plans and get the right airflows and temperatures and BTU per hour is coming across the heating or cooling coil. Now, if just think about all the things that you do indoors, mainly let's just focus on commercial, not industrial, side, because confined space testing and intrinsic safety is a little bit different. But all this thing is, or anything, is basically a troubleshooting tool. So when you talk about ventilation, it's very key to know what ventilation is. Your average person, oh, that's the air that comes out of my air duct or my register. But ventilation in our world is clean, fresh air ventilation, outdoor ventilation, air that comes into the building, and then also you got air that exits or exhausts from the building. But Joe was mentioning like alarm set points and thresholds. The whole, you think about pandemic and everything, and air changes per hour has been a hot topic. More fresh air ventilation. We got to be careful with that. Yeah, it's great in principle, but chances are your existing system is nowhere going to be able to condition that air. If it's hot and humid outside and you're bringing in a lot of outdoor air, that's just, your cooling coils aren't going to be able to be as efficient. You'll have more condensation that may, overflow or plug up your drain pans, creating mold issues. But it's really a diagnostic tool. And so if, for instance, CO2, that's when we look at ventilation, fresh air ventilation, where does that come from? What's the thresholds? What's a good number? What's a bad number? And there's a lot of things in the news, a lot of different organizations. Oh, we should do this, that, and the other. But it's very important to, here in the United States, we follow ASHRAE guidelines, ASHRAE 62.2 for, which has fresh air requirements per person or by space. But in a nutshell, if you're going outside and, what's ASHRAE recommendations? 700 ppm above outdoor limits. So you could set a threshold. You go outside, you get a baseline, maybe that's 400 ppm, and then you can set your alarms, your upper alarm set point for, 1100. But if you do have issues, chances are anything that happens in a space can be corrected by the ventilation system. So if you don't have the number of fresh air ventilation per person per standard, yeah, you're going to have to increase that ventilation rate, outdoor ventilation. But again, that's where it's very important to, for a building owner, not, commercial building owner, like, oh, tell facilities just crank open the outdoor air, because it's going to have quite a big impact on the rest of your system and whether or not it can has the capacity to heat or cool, humidify, dehumidify it. So it's very critical that, if you use an indoor air quality meter, that's going to point to something. Temperatures are too high, or I do have VOCs, or I have too many particulates. Well, you either get rid of the source or you control it. Get rid of the source, maybe get it out of there. If you have, let's say you have a chemical, you got a closet and a bunch of chemicals in there and they're leaking. Well, maybe those should be in a chemical storage cabinet with an active ventilation to the outside. Excuse me, but the ventilation tools, are capture hoods from doing direct airflow measurements from your supply and diffusers. That's one of the number one tools of a test and balance guy. They go off the specs. This room is designed for, 1,280 cubic feet per minute at certain amount of air changes per hour. Then they're going to start using our ventilation tools, whether it's a air velocity meter or meters to measure pressure, room pressure, differential pressure, building pressurization, because that's a key too. If your building is slightly negative compared to the outdoors, you're going to start bringing in unconditioned air, that might be too hot, too cold, maybe polluted or whatever. There are any gaps in your building envelope. But the ventilation tools are very pertinent and very important to ensure that you have good indoor air quality. Yeah, you may have a meter that says, yeah, I have too much formaldehyde or something's going on. Well, you're going to have to adjust your system to compensate it, or do some other practices, better cleaning practices, better storage practices. The whole thing about minimum outdoor ventilation rates. You hear a lot of talk, more outdoor air. Well, what the thing you have to keep in mind is until there's a new standard written or updated, we need to go and use what we're doing today, and that's ASHRAE 62 for minimum outdoor air requirements per person. And that'll be a starting point, because more often than not, for some of the things that you hear in the news, oh, I want 20 air changes per hour. You got to be careful. What is an air change per hour, and is it really occurring
Yes,
in your space?
and is that even feasible? And is it
Yeah.
occurring? The other thing is you need diagnostic tools like meters like this to be able to decide whether the actual air changes are happening in the occupant breathing zones. Having that critically important is that your supposed clean air is actually getting to the occupants, and you need diagnostic tools to be able to measure that. So,
Yeah, so
um,
I have one last question before we do a wrap up, because we're actually
okay,
approaching
yeah,
our wrap up
we are
time.
getting there.
Yeah. So one
Hmm.
question is that for some of the VOCs are one of the hardest measurement conditions are out there. Most of the other ones are very dead on in terms of like, okay, these are my numbers, but there's so many things that be giving me VOC. So what's a recommendation in terms of like, how long should I be in an environment or near something to know that I have actually determined the VOCs that are being created in that area? So do I need to stay there for 2 or 3 minutes, or am I getting readings within 30 seconds for this type of device?
Well, with the sensors, that's a great point. Is inside that module at the top that houses all the sensors, there's actually a little fan in there that draws in the ambient air across the sensor. So it is in active measurement. Some of our classic Q-Trak or IEQ probes, they're mainly work by diffusion. You
I think Jim froze. Is that
We
what everybody's?
we may have lost him. The point he was making, and he'll come back, I'm sure. But they're yeah, there he is.
Oh, sorry about that. I kept talking. I could hear you. Sorry, you couldn't hear me. But it is taking
Go
an
ahead,
active
Jim.
sample, and there's thousands of volatile organic compounds out there, and ours, we do TVO, so total volatile organic
Understood.
compounds.
I'm just trying to get a
But
time frame so you can give some people a general rule of thumb for that kind of device. Like what I understand it's active, but sometimes between the sensor and that time that people are walking through a building pretty quickly thinking that they're able to grab stuff instantly, and that's really not the case for many devices.
Oh, absolutely. And, it's going to play, even the, you just mentioned walking through the school or whatever, the area, the concentration is not going to be the same either from, this spot to 4 feet over. So, when walking through a building, doing a quick survey, ideally you'd want to mount it, put it in the area or the room at a level that most people are at. Whether it's a meeting room where people are sitting, okay, you want to have it close to them. And if you look at a lot of the buildings that have like a permanently installed monitor on the wall, they're generally going to be higher up, more towards your breathing zone. So, how you get your measurements, where you get your measurements, the time of response to the measurements, that's going to vary based on, what's going on in that space, concentration, airflows, and things like that.
So I'd like to jump in because I know Joe is going to try to put us into a wrap up mode and cut it, and I'm not going to let you do that yet, bud. So I just want to open it up again to our live studio audience. You guys have been kind of silent, and I know this is it's a new format, being allowed to actually ask questions and come on camera. But this would be a great time to raise your hand if you have a comment or question you'd like to pose to either Kevin or Jim, or Joe or I, or Susan for that matter. Just raise your hand, and Susan will recognize you and get you unmuted and get you on board. So with that, I had another question. I have a question that I wanted to ask though, before you actually went to your final thing. Have you at TSI, obviously you're involved with HVAC, you're involved with IAQ issues. How, and I know this is going to be hard to answer really quick, but just have you seen a major shift in interest and or practice as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic? I mean, how has that changed how TSI approaches things, how you're marketing, how you're, what you're thinking going forward? What's changing now, or has it at all?
Yeah, it really has. TSI has a variety of different instruments, as you talked about earlier, and one of them is respiratory fit tests for masks. N95 masks is an example. And certain product lines have really done extremely well during COVID, only because the demand for that testing and in particulates as well as respiratory fit tests. With that, there's been an increase in focus in indoor air quality, either particulates and gases. And we've seen that in terms of more excitement to it. There's a lot more research, as everyone knows, being done in that space, connecting CO2 and particulates, and how do those work as a surrogate with the spread of viruses in general, but COVID specifically. And there's a lot of research being done in that. So we're seeing in the marketplace a lot of interest in instruments that can help do those types of studies and monitor for those parameters. And I think we're going to see more of that going forward. I don't think this is going to end with COVID. I think if anything, COVID's been a wake-up call industry-wide and really picked up the momentum that has been happening over the last several years and giving it new focus and new urgency.
Jim, do you have any follow-up on that?
I agree with everything that Kevin mentioned, and but it's been challenging times, and there's different value streams or different product lines or divisions or whatever within our company, and respiratory fit testing is very important for testing masks. How do they fit on your face properly? I got a couple of daughters that are nurses. They're very familiar with what we call our port account. Other areas of our business, flow meters, those go in all the ventilators. That's been something that's been very well received. In our particle and research area, we do have filter testers that's actually used to classify and test the filter material used in any mask. So you see, demands for masks, you see your social distancing. I do foresee things changing, meaning, like ventilation, just the way it's constructed. I mean, if you go to any restaurant, a building or whatever, what do you see? You see, diffusers in the ceiling. You may see some return grills in the ceiling. That's not going to really flush things out. You think of like a laboratory, or I'm sorry, like a clean room where you have HEPA filters in the ceiling, where you have air coming into the space, flushing everything down, and then your returns are going to be either in the floor or on the sidewall, more of a unidirectional flush out. A lot of the things today, it's supposed to, really mix up the air. A diffuser diffuses air into the space to get better mixing, get better temperatures controlled. Temperatures are similar, but I foresee a lot of that changing as well. And then, another thing that you see changing, outdoor air ventilation. Well, maybe would you have enough outdoor ventilation coming into a particular space if that space was, let's say, designed for 12 people, and now it's only limited capacity to 4 people? So technically, you probably have enough outdoor air coming in. But I foresee a lot of things changing in the industry moving forward. Like Kevin said, this whole pandemic, COVID thing's been a wake-up call. You know, I wouldn't bet that there would not be something similar down in the future. So I think there's going to be a big wake-up call just in the, we've already changed our practices, social distancing, masks, washing your hands 3 dozen times a day. That's all well and good, and we need to do that, but now it's getting into the next step. And I foresee in the next several years, you're going to see a lot more changes to building codes, design practices, testing, recommissioning, coming out and testing that building, every couple of years just to make sure things haven't drifted, better maintenance and so on. So I think, things are going to change.
Yeah, and I would add too, if users want to find out more about TSI products and how they align with COVID, because we have made adjustments in marketing and really pointing our customers towards solutions that align with this, is at TSI.com. We've done a lot of that information gathering under the banner of COVID and how our products line up with professionals who are looking to mitigate as much as possible. And TSI has been in all these areas that Jim mentioned, all these product categories and divisions. We've been in these areas for quite a long time, and so our instruments aren't necessarily new to this space, although we always are launching new products into different categories. But it really is a matter of us being prepared and being in this market space, so we're able to respond to these types of I'll call them urgencies in the market, and be able to help professionals through a wide variety of disciplines, be it healthcare or first responders, to respond to COVID. And with that, TSI has been strong, and we continue to grow in these areas.
So I think that I got the wrap up I was looking for from both of you, and it was designed about where's the future and what's COVID done to us. So, but I do want to reiterate that TSI is a phenomenal resource, not just for indoor air quality and HVAC, but just dealing with some of the other things you mentioned. So you are a monster in terms of what we breathe and what's in our homes and how it gets there. So I applaud you for all the things that you guys do as a corporation. So well done, and continue to do it on a high standard. Everything you do is a high standard. Everybody compares other products we're thinking about buying to yours. We make cost decisions, but know that there is a premier product that's out there. So continue the work you're doing. I think your new products are going to be well received in the industry. The things that are in it and how well it's able to self-calibrate or continue to calibrate, do bump tests, keep track of all those things, and have modules. I think you've actually set a new standard for how these kind of devices will need to be designed in the future.
Thank you very much.
I'll say ditto.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. And that's not by accident. We put a lot into this, and most importantly, we've listened to the marketplace. We've listened to professionals. We've listened to end users. We've listened to our partners in the world, and that takes a lot. And I appreciate your guys' recognition that we've accomplished this. So thank you.
Yeah,
and thanks for letting us be here. This is great.
It was great to have you guys join us on our inaugural flight here. We did get a lot of commentary from the peanut gallery, but it's a new thing. I think as we move the show forward, we'll start to get more actively engaged virtual studio audience, because it happens. And so here's just the final question for you guys. So the Q-Trak XP is available now, correct? I mean, that's been released. It's in the market. Distributors have it. Yes, no, or
it is.
Available?
We launched it. Yeah, we launched it yesterday. It's on the shelf. Our salespeople have been trained, and we're ready to go. So you'll see a lot more noise about that in the marketplace as we expand through social media and so on. And we are training our channel partners here in the next week. So yeah, we're kind of on the ground and getting traction here. So we're very excited to bring this out. This has been a lot of work and a long time coming. And, like with anything, it's kind of the final stretch, right? So, but it is available now.
Yep. It's not bad. It's not bad timing. It's not bad timing for a new device based on what's going on in the world right now. This is actually a good time for a device that can do these things. So, as you're saying, Kevin, I'm sorry.
No, it is, and it's you can't plan this out 2 years ago, right? That's not what you can do. So you just kind of make every move you can as time comes on, and we've been trying to get this to the marketplace as quickly as possible, and we're able to do that now. And as you said, it is good timing, as a lot of schools and industry are looking to reopen, restaurants, businesses, stadiums, and so on, arenas. They're all looking at how can we get our people in here and be safe. TSI's mission is about protecting people and protecting products and environments, and doing that with trusted measurement and application guidance and expertise to get the kind of data analytics that they can make informed decisions. And that goes into everything we do. It goes into every product we make, goes into every effort we do, and we carry that forward. And to your point earlier, to TSI's really profession and experience and reputation, we've set a high bar in the marketplace, and we continue to do so. Of course, the challenge there is we've set a high bar in the marketplace, so we have to keep doing it. So that's what we strive for each and every day.
Well, we definitely appreciate having you gentlemen join us today, and for both our live in-house audience, as well as those of you who are watching the simulcast or will be watching the recording later on this week. Just wanted to just give you a quick preview of what's coming up in the next segment next week. We're doing a little schedule change where actually Joe, Susan, and I will be here to talk about kind of the current events, the industry, a little bit of outlook. And we're looking to have a lot of direct dialogue with you, our live studio audience, and really get into some issues, because like, as we all know, nothing really happened in 2020, right? It's nothing new out there to talk about. No, there's quite a bit. So we're looking forward to that. And then the following Thursday, on the 11th, we'll be having some representatives from the Indoor Air Quality Association, IAQA, talk about their upcoming online global event that they will be running on the 15th through the 18th. So again, looking forward to having them join us in a couple of weeks. And as always, we're looking forward to have you join us every Thursday live when you can be here for the Healthy Indoors live show. Now we added that word. For Healthy Indoors magazine, and the rest of us here, and like to again thank Kevin Chase and Jim Schumacher, and of course my co-host Joe Medosch from Hayward Score. Tell us about Hayward Score while you're here. Do your plug.
Yeah, real quick and simple. It's a free online tool to help you determine if your home is impacting or improving your health. So you can do that free at haywardscore.com, and lots of great resources on that site. So thank you.
And obviously, we're with Susan Valenti, and I are with Healthy Indoors magazine. Look for the latest issue coming out in about 24 hours ish, something like that. Yep. We're nodding. That's the great thing about being a digital publisher. Stuff we don't have to wait for presses to print and the postal service to delay in their delivery. It'll hit the button sometime tomorrow. So with that, we'll see you next week. Thanks again for the Healthy Indoors Show and Healthy Indoors Magazine. I'm Bob Krell. Please stay safe.